name is, oh, excuse me. My name is Trisha, and I'm from Insectopia. I love insects. I teach about them. I graduated from Michigan State. I see that I have somebody out there waiting for me, so I was pretty excited about that. You can feel free to chat. I'm watching the chat box. If you have any questions, if you want to let me know kind of like what you're expecting or maybe your favorite family, we can talk about that. All right, so I wanted to just get started by talking about what a hemipteran is. So you'll notice that you can see me. I have my screen. I also have a microscope camera that we'll be looking at, and we'll be looking at characteristics of different insects. All right, and we will also be chatting. And we'll be counting the different families that I have, because right at this moment I am in the process of organizing and setting my collection. I have just gotten everything pinned from the summer, and so I'm just going through and sorting. And I thought it would be really cool to do that with you guys and to kind of show you what I'm seeing as I'm going through my collection. All right. Sometimes you'll notice that this side is kind of overlit. It's just because that's my microscope light. It needs to be super bright to show you guys on the screen. And so every now and again you'll see that kind of blurred out. That's fine. All right, so hemipterans. Hemipterans are all of the true bugs. So a true bug is actually a type of an insect, right? So just like a butterfly is a type of insect or a beetle is a type of insect, a true bug is a type of insect with a piercing and sucking mouth part. All right, so all of the insects that we are going to be looking at today have piercing and sucking mouth parts. And I'm going to grab, let's see. Oh, you know what? The water scorpion has cool mouth parts that we can look at really quick. Alright, so let me show you guys that. So, this is the head of a water scorpion. Alright, and so as we're looking at this head, you can see it has the two large compound eyes off the side, and then this, what looks like a beak, is a long predatory piercing and sucking mouth part. Alright, not all of our insects today are going to be predatory. Some of them are going to be phytophagous, or they eat plants. So they'll have a variety of different lengths of mouth parts or thicknesses, because these predatory ones need to be really thick and strong to protect themselves. But the stink bugs, for instance, will have long, thin mouth parts that they use to drink from plants. Alrighty. Alright, so those are true bugs. They all have piercing and sucking mouth parts. Now, the first one I figured we would talk about are water striders. You guys know what water striders are? These guys are the insects that you'll see kind of skidding around the top of lakes and streams. Now, my specimen of a water strider, I pinned it back in 2011, so I was still kind of learning different pinning techniques. You'll notice that I pulled all of its legs up towards its head. I wouldn't do that nowadays, but there's not a really good way to correct that without risking destroying the specimen. So we kind of leave these things as they are. Now, that's what the water strider is going to look like in my front camera, but if we look at it under a microscope, we can talk about the lengths of the legs. Alright. So, doop doop doop. Alright, my water strider, if you look at it, we're looking up at closer to the head. So let's get a little bit of the body into the picture so you can get a frame of reference. So up here is the head. We've got the two little eyes, the thorax, the abdomen back here. And we'll notice with water striders is that they have this really long body, but also their middle and hind legs are really long. All right, almost double, or definitely double the length of their front legs. And that's going to be the character for water striders. So when you're looking at these guys, all you need to look at is the length of the legs. Whether or not, so all you need to do is look at the length of the legs. So you can kind of see that the middle and the hind legs are significantly longer. They bend around than the front legs. Cool. And so Jared's, that's gonna be the Latin or the scientific name for the family, Jaridae. Are water striders. We got one. They have the long. Okay. So then we talked about these really quickly last time when we were going over the grasshoppers. But I figured because we were doing all the hemipterans, we could pull them out again. So this is going to be a giant water bug. Bonus points for any guys out there that know the family name for giant water bugs. All right, so this is a giant water bug in the genus Abetus. But if we're looking at these guys, they're going to have, let's see. I'm going to flip them over so that we can see the underside. What I really want us to be looking at is the raptorial front legs and that piercing and sucking mouth part. All right, check that out. Sweet. So this is our giant water bug. And if we're checking out this giant water bug up here at the front, this is going to be like, this is its coccyx, so it's first. This is its femur right here. Tibia? Tibial tarsus? Interesting. I might be miscounting. Anyway, this is their raptorial front leg. So this is their front leg that they use to open and they grasp their prey. Kind of like a praying mantis, right? So praying mantis have those front legs that they can open and close and grab onto their food. Giant water bugs do the exact same thing. And they have this beak that is very stout. It's thick and it is like a thumbtack. It is very sharp and it can pierce whatever it's trying to eat. All right, so this guy right here, he's gonna eat things like fish. He can eat tadpoles and frogs. He'll eat other insects. Whatever he can grab. All right, and he is venomous, meaning that he does have venom that he injects using this mouth part. So definitely not an insect that you want to. Definitely not an insect that you want to grab and pick up or step on. Definitely don't want to step on these guys in lakes and rivers. One really kind of fun thing about giant water bugs is that, at least in this genus, Abetus, they, the females, when they lay the eggs on top of the males. So this is our giant water bug's back. All right, let's see. There we go. All right, so this is our giant water bug's back. And in this genus, Abetus, the female will actually come and lay her eggs on the male's back. All right, so she'll actually glue her eggs to the back of the guy, and then he has to take care of them. So he has to make sure that he protects them from predators, and he has to make sure that he stays swimming a lot of times to keep that water flow and the aeration on the eggs so that the eggs survive. One of my favorite things about these guys. So, all right. We have 2 giant water bugs here. So if we were talking characteristics of these guys, here. The 2 giant water bugs are right here up at the top. If we were talking characteristics on my giant water bugs, they would be the oval shape. So they've got that very, very ovoid shape. They have that piercing and sucking. You can... yeah. And the raptorial front legs. So it's that oval shape, and those raptorial front legs are really gonna do it for you. Velostomatidae. You know, we went over a little bit. That'll be fine. You guys don't have to know I have 2 of them. Alright, so the velostomatids are the giant water bugs, and I have 2 of them here for me right now. The next guy, I just want to show you him real quick. He's pretty awesome. I actually took some pictures and used him as a Guess That Bug on my Facebook page. Let me see if he'll focus. Get a little bit more light on him. No! He's going to have to go under my microscope. This is going to be a water scorpion. Alright, so water scorpions are considered true bugs. They've got those piercing and sucking mouth parts. We actually just saw their mouth parts a minute ago, but we can go ahead and look again. And then we will look at, there we go, that's cool. Alright, so we have our water scorpion. Our water scorpion is found in aquatic situations. I have never found a water scorpion outside of the water. All right. They do have wings. They have the ability to move from one water source to another. So they might fly around at nighttime. I've never seen them out. I'm sure they do though. Now they have those raptorial front claws just like those giant water bugs did. So you can see they kind of wrap around here. So that's going to be one characteristic of our water scorpions, right? They've got these raptorial front claws. But then also they tend to be very, very elongate or very, very long. So I'm going to scroll her over the microscope to show you how long she is. This is the majority of her body, and you can see her wings there. And then her body continues to go. Now this is not actually a tail. Let me see if I can zoom in and show you. Cool. All right. So this is the base of what looked like that tail. And so you see there's kind of this crevice here. And inside of that crevice is a little itty bitty tube. And this tube runs all the way along this tail, all the way to the very, 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 very end. All right. And at the very, very, very end of this tail, all right, the tube's going to be on one of these sides. Now at the very, very, very end of the tube, there's a hole. And water scorpions will actually hang upside down in the water, and they use this like a snorkel. Alright, so this tail that looks a lot like a tail is actually how my water scorpion breathes. Alright, and I think that's probably how they got the name water scorpion, is because they have that super, super long tail. Alright, now, I figured we'd... There I am. I figured that we would stay aquatic, so we're going to be talking about a variety of these aquatic true bugs. So nepids are the water scorpions. Okay. All right, so we have these water scorpions that have the raptorial front claws, and they're super, super elongate, and they have that long kind of tail that they use to breathe that's very much like a snorkel. I figured we'd stay with aquatics, and we would talk about our next friends. These guys are water boatmen. Alright, so I have two different species of water boatmen here. And we're going to be looking at, so there's two different guys, the water boatmen and the back swimmers. People tend to get them mixed up when they're identifying. So, I figured I'd show you the character under the microscope so you would know for sure which one yours is if you ever were IDing. I like to get it prepped a little bit before I show you guys so that there's not too much of that blurriness. Now, with water boatmen, they're going to have, their hind legs are going to be adapted for swimming. Alright, and so when they're adapted for swimming, essentially they've got these long, long hairs that they will use to help kind of turn their legs into paddles. Yes, there we go. Okay, so now you guys can see. Alrighty, so we are looking at the bottom side of our water boatman, and we're going to be looking at its first pair of legs. That's really what we're interested in. Okay. Water boatman. Cool. So, if you look up here, this is his head right here. He's got it one eye right here. His two eye is right here. It's kind of fuzzy and in the background. He has his hind legs actually connect about right here, so they're kind of going off screen. His middle legs are right about here. We will go and look at his hind legs for those hairs. But what I want to show you is his front pair of legs. So, right about here. Oh. You know, I'm from the Midwest. I say, oh. All right. If you look right here, the first pair of legs are scoop-like. All right. They're shaped like a scoop. This is because these guys are going to be, I believe they're going to be mostly filter feeding. So they have all of those hairs and stuff to help them filter the water. So they've got those really long scoop-like mouth parts that help them eat. And that is characteristic of water boatmen. All right. They have scoopy front hands. All right. And that's how you can tell them apart. Now, water boatmen and back swimmers will both have hind legs that you can see are kind of shaped like oars. They're kind of widened, but they also have all of these long hairs, and all of these hairs help our insect to swim. All right. So that is going to be. So that's going to be the characteristics for our water boatmen. Make sure if you're looking at those guys, you're looking at their little scoopy hands. Sometimes I have to take the information, the label off of the pin to show you guys the insect in the microscope. And that's just because sometimes the label kind of gets in the way. I always make sure that if I take a label off of a specimen, the pin goes through the same hole so that you're not making multiple holes through the same label. All right, so that you can have a size comparison, these first two right here, those are our water boatmen. Oh, there we go. Now those are our water boatmen. The next one, oh man. These next guys are pretty fun. And I even have a good story about them. All right. All right, so this, we're going to be talking about nacorids. All right. A nacorid is called a creeping water bug. All right. We're going to notice that the body shape of this insect, it might seem kind of similar. It might seem kind of similar to a giant water bug, but we'll look at some differences. Although these guys are always smaller than, pretty much always. 90% of the time. Unless you find a baby giant water bug and an adult nacorid, you know. All right. So you remember that when we focused on the giant water bug, the whole body didn't fit under the focus. But you'll see the crawling water bug, the creeping water bug, can fit its entire body in one focus of the microscope, right? So we know that it is definitely smaller. You'll see that it still has this very oval body shape, though. So if you're looking, her body shape is very, very ovoid. Just like most of the other hemipterans, they have hemielytra. So it's half leathery and half membranous. Down here at the end, we could actually zoom in and find some veins. Let's see. Ah, there are not very many veins on this guy. Not at all. We'll look at membranous wings on some of the other ones, though. All right. So that's my crawling water bug. Now, we said he was kind of small, but the characteristic on these guys is actually easier seen from the underside. I use a little bit of museum putty or teacher's tack under my microscope sometimes, just to help put the pin upside down. All right. See if we can get him a little more centered so we can zoom in. All right, very cool. So this is the underside. This is the underside of our creeping water bug. And you'll notice that it does have that sharp beak, or that super sharp mouthpiece that it can use to pierce and drink from predators or prey, or both. It does have those raptorial front legs, or it has the ability to grab onto things. But you'll notice that the femurs on these guys' legs are huge. They have these large expanded femurs as part of their raptorial front legs. And that is going to be how you're going to be able to tell them apart from everybody else. All right? Their front femurs are really, really thick. All right. So I guess we can say thickened front femurs. Alrighty. So that's going to be our crawling water bug. Now, I collected one of these guys. Let's see. I collected one of these guys right out of a river, and I was actually teaching a bug camp at the time. I was probably, I don't know, 19 or 20 at the time, and I was pretty excited to find these guys and show them to the kids, because I hadn't found them very regularly. And this actually might be the specimen that bit me. It's very much possible. Anyway, I pulled him out of the river, and I was so excited to find him. I picked him up to show him to the kids because I figured, you know, I knew they were venomous. I underestimated their venom, and I got bit in front of stabbed, envenomated in front of a bunch of kids, and kind of threw the bug a little bit. It was the first and only time I've been stung in front of a group of kids. And so when I think of these creeping water bugs or the Necorids, I always think of that time when I picked one up and got bit in front of a bunch of kids. Luckily, there were no choice words said, which is super beneficial. All right, so we got through the Necorids. Now, I wanted to talk about a family called the Nodonectidae. They are the back swimmers. So these guys are really fun because they swim on their backs. All right. Alright, so this is the top side, or the dorsal side of a back swimmer. And you'll notice that the top of his body is very, very light. And when we flip this back swimmer over, you'll notice that its ventral side, or its bottom side, is very, very dark. Alright? This is actually interesting because this is how they kind of help camouflage themselves. In the same way that fish do. So if you think about them, fish are dark on the top and they're lighter on the bottom, right? So if you're looking down at a fish, the darkness kind of blends in with the ground. But if you're looking up at a fish from the bottom, he's got that light tummy, or that white or grayish tummy, that helps him kind of blend in with the sky, lighter color because you're looking up. Well, my back swimmer is using the same thing, but you'll notice that the colors are flipped, and that's because he swims on his back. He swims upside down. So this light color is actually going to be facing towards the ground, and his underside points towards the sky. Also why they're called back swimmers. So a lot of them have this inverted coloration where they're light on the top and dark on the bottom. Not all of them are like that, so it can't be kind of a key characteristic or one that you use all the time, but it's definitely something that you can consider. When you see an insect that looks like this, it's likely a back swimmer. Now, back swimmers have very, very similar characteristics to the water boatmen that we looked at. Except, you guys remember that the water boatmen had, their front legs were kind of scoopy. They had the scoopy front legs. Well, we're going to have to take the labels off of this specimen. Alright, so if we're looking at our back swimmer, alright, so now we're looking at the bottom of our insect, and you'll notice that it's that super dark, right? So we just talked about that, dark on the bottom, light on the top. He also is going to have, you'll notice all of these fine hairs on his hind legs. Those are going to be part of the adaptations for his legs to help him swim. Right? He can use those hairs, kind of put them in together and use them as oars. And then, up here in the front, This is our characteristic. This is what we are looking for. If you want to determine the difference between a water boatman and a back swimmer, you are looking at this front pair of legs. All right, this front pair of legs is elongated, right? It's kind of normal. You remember the Corixids, the water boatmen, had these scoopy front hands, right? They were very scoop-like and helped them kind of sift, whereas our back swimmers have these longer legs that are they look more like walking legs, right? They don't look scoopy at all. How dare they? So we can say, we'll just say variation in color. Hopefully you guys know what that means. The dark on the bottom and the light on the top. And then we're going to call them normal front legs. They're not scoopy. Right? I mean, if you guys have another word for them, I'd love to hear that. That's kind of what I figured I'd call them for now. I would say they're almost walking legs, cursorial legs, but they don't really walk around a lot. All right. So those are my aquatic true bugs. Those are the guys that I have in the aquatic variety. But we still have a number of families to talk about. Oh, hey, I lied. There's one more aquatic family. This guy is so small, I just forgot about him. This... Oh, man. Come here, bud. He's pretty small. This guy was collected... This guy was collected in Jackson, Michigan for one of my collections because I was looking for an insect in a small family because I was in the process of making a collection and I just needed a couple more unique families. So I pinned this guy. I forget their common names, so I'm going to look it up really quick. Got it. All right, so this is a Pleiad. All right, this is a Pleiad. And Pleiads are Pygmy... Yep, I can spell pygmy, guys. They're pygmy back swimmers. All right, so if you look at the top of her body, or the top of its body, it's got that light color. I'm sure if I flipped it over, it would be pretty dark on the bottom. They swim upside down, and they tend to be somewhere in the 2 to 4 millimeters range. So they are incredibly, incredibly tiny. In fact, this pin that I have going through this specimen isn't a number 2 or even a 00 pin. It's a smaller mounting pin special for very small insects. And I also did this one a while back. So this pin I would have put a little further up. But all right. So if you want to look at that guy, if you wanted to look at that guy just kind of like in comparison to everybody else to see kind of the size difference between this pygmy back swimmer and all of the other guys. So the pygmy grasshopper is actually pinned again on a small piece of styrofoam that is on a pin. Alright, so that's going to be the pygmy grasshopper. There's a pin through a cube of styrofoam, and then an even smaller pin through the insect, and then the styrofoam. Alright, so that's one way of micro-mounting. There are many, many ways. People kind of argue about them. But that's just how I decided to pin that one. Cool. Alrighty. Pygmies! Assassin bugs. I'm sure that you guys have heard of assassin bugs. These guys, this guy is pretty common. This is the Cogwheel Assassin Bug. Let me get a bigger container. Alright, so this is our Cogwheel Assassin Bug. So he is a true bug. He's got a piercing and sucking mouth part. He is predatory. And the cool thing about Cogwheel Assassin Bugs is their back. Alright. Some of you have probably seen these out there. Alright, so this species of assassin bug, the Cogwheel Assassin Bug, has this back with a cogwheel, or it looks like a wheel with all of these spines on its back. And so this is considered a wheel bug or a Cogwheel Assassin Bug. They are predatory. They do use venom. They have a piercing and sucking mouth part. But when you're looking at assassin bugs and you're trying to identify one assassin bug, you're trying to determine if it's an assassin bug, we would look at there. Alright, so where we're looking is stay. Sorry, still working the kinks out of my microscope, wanting to... Alright, cool. Alright, so this is the bottom side of our assassin bug. Right? So what we're looking at right here is we've got the head, we have the mouth part up here, and the mouth part actually projects down towards its body. And if we look really closely at the body, in between the legs from about here to here, you see a groove. Alright. See right there, that groove in there? That's how you identify an assassin bug. So, if you don't know, if you're looking at an insect and you're like, oh, it could be an assassin bug or it could be something else, you know, it has this really long piercing and sucking mouth part. It's got these kind of longer antennae, where the first segment is longer than all of the others. Some assassin bugs will even have raptorial front legs, like ambush bugs. But they all have this, they call it a striated prosternal groove, but it's just a groove that has some striations or some lines in it, so that when the assassin bug moves its mouth part along this groove, it can make a squeaking or a chirpy noise. Alright, and so that's how you tell assassin bugs. And And so I actually have 4 different species of assassin bugs that I'm looking at right here. So that was the Cogwheel Assassin Bug. If you guys want to see the other ones, one of them I shared on my Facebook page on the Guess That Bug, one of the ambush bugs. This is another species of ambush bug. So it is a species, it is a type of assassin bug, all right? It has those raptorial front legs, it has longer antennae, and if I was to flip it over and check out its mouth part, it would have that groove that the mouth part fit into. Yeah. So, on the assassin bug side of things, there are 4 of them. Here. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4. And then focus. Yay, it listened. Perfect. So, assassin bugs. Alrighty. So, when we're talking about true bugs, a lot of times people think of plant bugs. Now, these guys have that longer mouth part, but the characteristic that I was always taught for mirids or for plant bugs was actually the kind of the shape of its back. So we'll notice that on these guys, they have this back that is dorsally flat and then drops at a 45-degree angle. All right, and so you'll see that angle on a lot of these plant bugs or these mirids. Let me get this focus prepped for you guys. Don't want to make anyone dizzy. Now, this mirid died with its wings open a little bit, so that angle is not as pronounced. Oh, there it is. I'll flip it over. It's pronounced on the other side. Okay. Alright, so we are looking at a mirid or a plant bug here. It has a long piercing. It has this long tube-like mouth part on the bottom of its body. You know what's funny? Oh yeah, the mouth part is in front of the pin, so you can kind of see it right here. But if we look at the back, this is the characteristic that you're going to be looking for in plant bugs. You can see that the back is very much flat here, and then right here you see that there's this angle, and its wings drop drastically. Alright, and that's going to be the characteristic for most mirids. These guys are very, very common all over the world. This is a very large family of true bugs. And they come in lots and lots of beautiful colors and sizes, and most of them are generally this shaped. But they come in all sorts of beautiful colors. They generally, because they are plant bugs, they are generally considered pests. Although there's a lot of native species that you wouldn't even notice that stay off of agriculture. The common ones, though, are famous because they're agricultural pests. And our plant bugs are in the family Miridae. All right, now this next insect is, I think, going to be the next Guess That Bug. Don't tell anybody. Shh. All right. This one I think is absolutely beautiful to look at under a microscope, even though if you were looking at this insect in person, you probably wouldn't see much. It's pretty tiny. It's another one of those insects that is pinned on top of that piece of styrofoam, right? So this is a very, very small insect, but you're gonna be surprised. I know it. All right, this is called a lace bug. Let's zoom in. All right, so if you are looking at this insect, this is a lace bug. All right, it's a tingid. And lace bugs pretty much always have these incredibly beautiful and intricate patterning. This is the pronotum around the head that has all of these beautiful crowns. And then all the way to the back, it has these lacy hind wings, these lacy wings. Right? So you can see all of these beautiful ornate wing venations, and I always feel like somebody could crochet this or knit a doily out of a lace wing pattern. I think they're beautiful, and they're so small. So this guy is actually incredibly unique, right? Pretty much all lace bugs look like this with their beautiful kind of lacy patterning. But then they have different lateral margins. They have different venations. Some of them can get really pretty and delicate up here in the front. Some of them are very basic. But they all have this very same kind of body shape, and they're all very, very small. And this is one of the reasons why I think it's so important to look really closely at insects, because you would never have guessed that there's so much beautiful, like, intricate works on this insect if you were just looking at, let's see, that guy on the very, very end of the pin. I don't know. He's going to be really hard to focus on because he's so small. Alright, but those are lace bugs. Alright, so I also have with me... Hey, you're out of order. No, he's not. Alright, so I'm going to admit, this is going to be one of my oldest specimens. It was collected when I was a kid, before I realized that the pronotum was the first segment of the thorax, and not where you were supposed to put the pin through. So, you guys can laugh it past Patricia, I do, when you see that this pin is through the pronotum instead of the actual second segment of the thorax. All right. So this insect is going to be a Lygiid. So something I wanted to bring up as we were kind of chatting about hemipterans and families of orders. The last time we were chatting, we talked about the order Orthoptera, right? And we only had about, I don't know, we had about 5 or 6 families, but there were a lot of specimens in each family. That's just I don't think there are definitely not as many families in Orthopterans as there are in Hemiptera. All right. But also there's so much diversity in hemipterans. I generally want to collect as much diversity as possible. So you'll notice that I have a lot of individuals, and that's just something that I'm working on over time to get bonus specimens. All right. Let's see. Where are we? The seed bug. All right, so some of us may look at this specimen and think, this, I know what that is. That's a box elder bug, and they invade my house, and they're all over the place, and I don't know what to do about them. Some of us might think this is a box elder bug. This is not a box elder bug. This is actually a milkweed bug. They're in two different families. Milkweed bug is a type of seed bug or a Lygeid. And the character, how we're going to know is if we zoom in on the wings back here, on the dark section. This dark section of wings, this is actually the membranous part of the wings. There we go. Need to get it to brighten up a little bit. I'm going to put it on an angle, see if it can catch the light a little better. Much better. All right, so if we are looking at the wing venation on this guy, so this is, if you'll notice, we can back up a little bit. This is his back. This is going to be like the, this is the leathery part of his wing, and then back here is going to be the membranous part. And if we zoom into the membranous part of his wings, you can see there's a vein right about here. It crosses. There's one about here. There's one here. And one about here. Alright, so you'll notice that there's only about 4 or 5 veins here. There is not very many veins. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, if we're looking at a box elder bug or a rhopalid, we will see lots and lots and lots of veins right there on the wings. And we're actually going to look at one really soon. So that guy right there, he's a milkweed bug. And he has 4 to 5 veins. Alright, Lygeid. Okay. Alright, so we've got those, the seed bugs. And I want to put the box elder bug right next to them so that we can compare them. Now, the box elder bug is going to be in a completely different family. This guy is going to be Rhopalidae. And they're, I don't know, scentless plant bugs. I don't know what the common name that you guys use is. Alrighty. And I think that we will see a significant difference in this wing venation. Wow, check out, that's so pretty. Alright, check that out. So you'll notice that on our box elder bugs, or the scentless plant bugs, there are numerous veins all the way down the membranes of these hemielytra, right? So all of these veins are going to let us know that this is a rhopalid or a plant bug and not a seed bug. Even though plant bugs and seed bugs, they pretty much look very, 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 very similar. And so they're very difficult to tell apart unless you have a microscope or you can kind of look at one really, really closely. I believe there's also a difference in the scent glands between the second and third pairs of legs, although I'm going to have a hard time showing you those on these specimens. I tried to look before. Yeah, so that's them next to each other. And you can see that their body shape is very similar to each other. It's just going to be mostly those wings. Perfect. All right, so I had a couple left. I want to get the leaf bugs done because I really like their hind legs. Ha ha ha. Let's do these guys. So leaf bugs have these really cool expanded tibia. All right. All right, so this is going to be our leaf bug. You can see up here at his head. Up here at his head, he has that long true bug, right, piercing and sucking mouth part right about here. And if we look along his body, you can see this is definitely going to be his defining characteristic, right? So he has these expanded, his legs look like they're leaves, right? And he's a leaf bug. He also has this defensive gland. All right. Look at you. All right, you see right there, that kind of hole? That is where his stink comes from. All right, they've got this defensive gland in between the second and third pair of legs on the side of their body that they use to stink. All right, and so leaf-footed bugs. No, come back. Leaf-footed bugs have those scent organs. Oh, his family is Coreid. Alright, so if we're looking at that, there are a couple of other characteristics that you can use that all of our leaf bugs are going to have. Alright. This is our leaf bug from the top. Alright, he's got his eyes over here. This is his head. And as we're looking at him, his head is definitely narrower than this right here, this triangle. That's his pronotum. That's kind of like a shield that guards his back. Alright, and so the head is narrower than the pronotum, and that's true in all leaf-footed bugs. So that's a thing that you can look for. And, if we look at the hind wings again, he has lots. He's one of those insects with lots of individual veins on the hemielytra. So we call them hemielytra because they're kind of like half elytra. This first half, right? So the wing goes is this shape. All right, but you can see that right about here, that's where the color ends. This part is leathery and protective, and this part, the membranous part, is kind of thin. It's not as protective over the body, and that's why we call them hemielytras, because they're kind of half membranous and half protective or leathery. All right. So that means that we've gotten through this tray. Really quick, I want to show you. These guys are cicadas. Cicadas are true bugs. We don't even have to look at them under the microscope. They have very similar body shapes. These guys are the guys that chirp in your trees, right? Some of them are 13 year, some of them are 17 year. Some of them that I've collected here are even 2 year. They're dog day cicadas. So they actually emerge every other year. Their generations do. Alright. We have a variety of stink bugs. I did my research on stink bugs. You may or may not know this. And so there's a special place in my heart for them. So I wanted to show you just their general body shape and a couple of things about them. This is going to be a stink bug, all right? And if we are looking at characteristics that define these guys, stink bugs are in the family Pentatomidae. Penta meaning 5, right? So, stoink bugs. All right. Penta meaning 5. And so if you look at this insect, it almost looks like it has 5 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And so it makes them kind of look like a shield. And that's how stink bugs got their name, is their kind of shield-like body shape. And if you look, this is the scutellum. This is the scutellum, and it's this big triangle right here. And in stink bugs, the scutellum is very large and pronounced, and pretty much always this big triangle. And so that's one of the characteristics that you can look for if you're trying to kind of see a character that will give you a positive ID. But that that 5-angled body shape is characteristic. Now, there are a number of insects that are called pentatomorpha, or they have the very similar body shapes to stink bugs, but they're not in the same family. And this is one of them. Alright, this I don't know what the common name for thyreochorids are. Let me check. Ebony bugs. Okay, so thyreochorids are pretty much always black and shiny. All right, they're very, very small. They are metallic. And if you look closely enough, they do have a scutellum. It's just very expanded. Remember in the stink bugs, it was this triangular shape. But in thyreochorids, this starting here and coming down, you can almost see that crease there. And then coming up the other side right here, that whole thing is the scutellum. And if you look right here, this little triangle right there, that's its wing. And that can actually open up, and he has the ability to fly with that little thing. All right? And so those are thyreochorids. You pretty much won't see them unless you're looking for them, because they are pretty small. But they were worth showing you. And the other one that is kind of small and stink bug-like are cydnids. These guys. All right, so these are cydnids or burrowing bugs. Or this is a cydnid or a burrowing bug. It has those similar markings to a stink bug, right? So if we look at its back, I'm going to zoom in a little bit to trick my camera into getting lighter. You can see that it has this triangle that we know so well, right? But the body shape isn't really shield shaped. It's more of this oval shape. So it's a different family. And if you look at these legs, they have these huge spinos legs. There are spines all over the place, and that's going to be the characteristic for burrowing bugs. Let's see if I can get you a lateral view. There you go. So if you are checking out those legs, you can see all of these spines. Oh. Can you see all those spines all over the legs? And then up here at the front, it's got these spines on the sides. All of those spines are going to help this insect dig. All right, and that's why they're called burrowing bugs. So they have that triangular scutellum, just like the stink bugs have. But they have spinose legs, or legs that they can use for digging. Now, I know it is 10:05, and I had posted that the live stream was only going to be an hour. I do have a number of insects to finish up on. I want to see. So I hope you guys will stick around just for a little bit. We've gotten through almost everybody. We pretty much have, well, we have the hoppers left, right? So all of the hoppers are true bugs. Leaf hopper, plant hopper, frog hoppers. Those are what we're going into next. Okay. And admittedly, the characteristics on these guys are very specific, so you kind of have to look very closely at them. Alright, so we're going to first look at... Alright, so that you guys know, we have 6 more families, but they're pretty much going to be broken down into 4 families. I'm not going to worry about separating the fulguroids out from each other, because there's lots of families of them. Alright. Alright, so this first one that we're going to be looking at, these are going to be the frog hoppers. Also known as the spittle bugs. I don't know if any of you have been walking through a field and you look over at a bush and it has what looks like a glob of human spit on it, and you're like, why is someone spitting in the bushes? Sometimes that little thing of spit is actually holding a small insect. They're called spittle bugs. So they kind of spittle all over the place, and then they create this like little bubble hangout, and then they feed on the plant underneath. And that's what they do as it matures. And then once they become adults, they get wings, and they have the ability to jump and fly like other hoppers. All right. So with frog hoppers, the identifying characteristic is going to be that the hind tibia, or the back leg, has only 1 or 2 spines along the edge, and let's say edge. And then it also has a circle of spines at the end. Alright, so if we're looking, I'll turn this light back on. Alright, this is the hind leg. So if we're looking at our beautiful hind leg, this darker dot right about here and this darker dot right about there, those are the 2 spines that we were talking about. 1 or 2 spines along along the edge of the tibia. So you can see that spine there very clearly. There's another one right here. You can see it mostly because it has that dark tip. All right, so that's character number 1. And the other character is when we're looking right here at the end of the tibia. You can kind of see how there's this circle of spines, or there's lots of spines right here on the end. And there's these circle of spines along the tarsi. That's going to be our characteristic for frog hoppers. So you don't have to look at the head, you don't have to look at the mouth parts or the antenna. You can, because they're cute and their faces look like little frogs. But you don't have to, because all of the defining characteristics are on their legs. Alright, so we've got those frog hoppers. And then we have the membracids, or the tree hoppers. Oh, I forgot to write sarcopid. I'm just going to do it down here. Alright, so we've got the membracids, or the tree hoppers, and the membracids are the most unique. I like to say that they like to have cool hairdos. They have modified pronotums a lot of times, and so they will have all different types of cool body adaptations. We're going to look at a couple. Like this one. So this is a membracid, or a tree hopper. Okay. All right. And as you can see, its eye is way down here. So this is his head down here. And all of this big horn and then all the way back, that's his pronotum, or what's guarding his back? Question mark? You know, membracids are famous for having these crazy hairdos, or, you know, for having these crazy shapes of their pronotum where they can go a single spine. This guy, we're going to look at him head on, because he has a double spine. All right, so his head's down here. He has these eyes. He has his mouth part right here. And then the pronotum has the spines on the edges. And he has this really cool... Check that out. Yeah, so that is also a tree hopper, right? So they've got these... And this pronotum doesn't end until right about here. So that's the tip of it. And so that's definitely guarding his back, and especially with those spines, I would say that this one definitely has better defense than the last one, right? Let's do one more. This one doesn't have any spines. Although he's similar to the last one we saw, this guy, he's a little darker, and instead of having spines, he decided to comb his hair back. Alright, so he's nice and smooth. He's got this expansion. But pretty much all of the tree hoppers have this expanded pronotum where it goes to all the way to their back. And then some of them have really fun, cool designs. I think that you guys should definitely go on Google at some point and Google tree hoppers. Like, you can say something like beautiful tree hopper or unique tree hopper. Membracity works well. And you can find all types of tropical membracids that have like knobs and curls and loops and all types of crazy stuff on their pronotum. Alright. These guys, membracids. Alrighty, my next one. Giving us a little bit of room. Psychedelity. These are the leaf hoppers. See, I told you we only had hoppers left, We had frog hoppers and tree hoppers and leaf hoppers. And then we'll also do the fulguroids. But I don't know if they have a... They're just hoppers. Alright, so let's see. Our Psychedelity, our leaf hoppers. These guys have, we're looking at the hind tibia. So a lot of times when we're trying to tell the difference between hoppers, the membracids are easy, right? They've got that elongated pronotum that guards that entire back. It's very hard. It's defensive. Those guys are easy to tell. But frog hoppers and leaf hoppers tend to be a little bit more difficult to tell apart, unless you know what you're looking for, right? So the frog hoppers, we were looking at the hind tibia, right? Having 1 or 2 spines, but then the circle of spines at the end. With Psychedelity, we have an entire row of spines on the tibia. So we're going to look at that real fast. Doop, doop, doop. Yeah. Spiny. So pretty. There we go. All right, if you are looking at, so this is the hind leg. It starts right about here. It moves on to about here. So this is the tibia, starting here and going there. And then these are the tarsi. The femur actually goes from about here to here. It bends back. But if, as you can see, along the tibia, there are all of these spines. There is a lot of them. You see all of those spines along the tibia? That's going to tell us that we have a leaf hopper and not a frog hopper, right? Frog hoppers have nice, smooth legs. They might have 1 or 2 spines, but leaf hoppers, they've never shaved their legs. Leaf hoppers have these really, really long spines all over the place, and that's how we're going to tell them apart. Now, leaf hoppers can be really beautiful on the color side of things. Leaf hoppers and frog hoppers both really can be beautiful. But let's check her out. This leaf hopper has these beautiful, it has this black body, but then it has these bright red and yellow colorations on it. I think that is pretty striking. Alrighty, so the only guys we have left, I'm going to write Fulguroidea. Okay. When you see oidea at the end of a name, I'll say this. When you see oidea at the end of a name, this is a superfamily, or it's a group of families. Alright. And so when I say Fulguroidea, I'm talking about some lanternflies, but there's a variety of other insects that are kind of also included in them. Alright, so I'm trying to pick one that we can see the characteristics on. Give me a minute while I find one that we have the characteristics on. So what we're going to be looking at with the fulguroids is where the antenna is. Where the antenna on the head comes out. Now you'll notice in a lot of hoppers, they don't have elongated, they don't really have elongated antenna. They're not super noticeable all the time. And in frog hoppers, it's the same. So, if we're looking at a frog hopper, the antenna is going to come out of the head right underneath the eyes. So this is the eye right here. This is the head. So this is the top of the body and the bottom of the body. Sorry, he's a little upside down. So we've got the head, and you see this little nodule and the hair sticking off of it? That's not a hair, that's its entire antenna. Alright, so this nodule and the hair, that's going to be its antenna. And you'll notice that the antenna is coming out of the head right underneath the eyes. Alright, and that's going to be the characteristic for the superfamily, for the Fulguroidea. Now, Fulguroids do have the jumping legs, the jumping hind legs, like many other of the hoppers. They have very, very similar hind legs to frog hoppers because they've got the same circlet of spines on the end of their tibia. But we'll notice that those antenna being right underneath the eyes, that's going to be the key characteristic for the superfamily. And then there's some variation. So I guess I can tell ya. This guy... Yeah. There we go. They can be beautiful, Fulguroids, and they can have a variety of body shapes because we're talking about a variety of families. Alright, so we've got that one that kind of looks like a leaf. We've got this guy that looks like he has... This is a Dictyopharid. He looks like he has a fancy nose. He looks like he's turning up his nose at the world. I kind of love Dictyopharids. And if you'll see, the antenna is right underneath the eye. Alright, and that's what we're looking for. The antenna right here being right underneath the eyeball for the Fulguroids, the superfamily. Now, these guys, you'll notice, are pretty small as we're seeing them under a microscope. There is a more common, there is a Fulguroid that is becoming more and more common, and that is the spotted lanternfly. They are invasive. They got introduced in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. They've been spreading since, and they are a Fulguroid. They're a lanternfly. All right. And so they do have those jumping legs. You'll notice if you look really closely at them, they've got their antenna right underneath their eyeballs, and they have that circle of spines at the end of their tibia. All right, cool. Guess what, guys? We made it all the way through. It only was an extra, like, 20 minutes to get through the hoppers. I totally think it was worth it. I hope that you guys really enjoyed spending your time with me. I hope that you learned something and that you'll come back again. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope, I hope I'll see everybody again. So the next time I'm going to be live streaming will be Thursday at 2, so you guys can catch me then. And I have a YouTube video coming out on Wednesday, so you guys can always come and check that out. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I look forward